This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Cori Shirk, Director of SEO at Seer Interactive. Welcome to eCoffee with Experts.
Hey, Austin. Thanks for having me.
You've been at Seer Interactive for over a decade. I'd love to know how you've seen the organization grow, shift, change, and adapt to SEO and marketing over the last 10 plus years.
Yeah, coming up on 13 in January, which is like ancient in agency world. And I really feel like I worked for like 4 different companies in that time, and both from an organizational standpoint, I think we were like 35 people when I started. We're up to like 180 now. We had a peak of 220 before COVID. Like it's been a lot of change from that sense, but also just in the way that we work and the way that the agency approaches the concepts of marketing. Like we have always been really people focused and kind of understanding that like it's not about chasing algorithms, it's about connecting with the person, connecting with the human. And our quest has always been kind of like, how do we collect all of the data that we can to paint that most accurate picture of the person that we're trying to connect with? And I think that's been the consistent thread through all of that. But even just in the way that we've grown our services over the years, like we started just as an SEO shop in, I think, Will's basement like 23 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, crazy.
Added paid media and then eventually added analytics, added creative into the mix there, doing CRO now, audience research. Like it's kind of organically grown to meet the needs of the clients that we work with and to just continue to like paint that better picture of who we're trying to connect with and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, a lot of different stuff. And now you focus mostly on enterprise clients. Is that right?
Yeah, enterprise and like mid-market.
Okay, enterprise and mid-market. Client retention is a big part of that. No agency can grow if they're not hanging on to their clients in order to stack on top of. And that's kind of where, the real expansion happens is you have to have a high retention. Tell me, with Seer Interactive being a certified B Corp, what does that mean and how does that affect retention? And then how does that play in executionally on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So the process, really becoming a B Corp was about signaling, really holding ourselves accountable to like make sure that we were walking that walk, not just talking the talk, but really signaling and confirming for ourselves and signaling to others that, we may get the opportunity to work with that we are committed to being part of something bigger than ourselves. Like not just SEO, not just marketing, but part of the global community. Actually, there places a really big emphasis on volunteer hours and giving back to the community. We've made financial commitments to doing that as part of our B Corp certification. But like when I first started at Seer back in 2013, I actually had in my offer letter that I signed a commitment to volunteer at least 3 hours a week somewhere. I don't think our lawyers let us do that anymore. I'm pretty sure like next. But that's like always been the ethos. And, Seer actually was founded because Will's previous agency wouldn't let him take time off to go volunteer with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So like, that's really like in our DNA. And I think like how that plays into client retention and growth is that level of authenticity and that true intention to build trust and alignment and obviously drive results. You can't retain clients if you don't do good work for them. But retention is more than just about hitting KPIs. It's like clarity. It's working from the same scoreboard, being transparent, even when it's not pretty, like what you have to say. It's that sense of accountability, keeping your word and communicating when you can't. And I think a lot of it is like creating space for that two-way feedback. It's a relationship, right? And you want to grow that relationship. You got to invest in it, not just check things off the to-do list, but like make it work better for both parties.
Yeah. It's more, like you said, it's more than just driving KPIs, although that's where a lot of agencies stop. They're like, if we can get you results at all costs, that's what we're going to stick to. Yeah. It can turn sour quickly if you don't have the relationship at heart, for sure. Yeah. So a little bit more about, what does that look like in practice internally? Is there, are there like guiding principles that you have? Are there like, maybe I'm just simplifying it. Are there like meetings that you have on like, hey, how are we leaning into this? Like, what does it look like operationally? I'm asking.
Yeah. So we do have a set of like guiding principles. I will not rattle them all off to you. But like it's kind of
I'm
our
sure
like
they're extensive.
internal, it's like our like code of ethics, right? But I think like
Yeah.
I was actually like recently kicking this around with one of my colleagues, Jason Stinnett. He's our lead developer, and we are just riffing on like culture in a time of change, and like how do you protect it, how do you adapt it, and where we landed really is this concept of like rigor versus structure. And I would say that like
Mm.
Seer has a lot of rigor in, I guess you could call that culture. Like we have clear expectations for how we communicate both internally, how we treat each other, how we communicate with our clients, how we treat them, expectations of how they treat us, quality of
Mm.
work, like asking hard questions to get to the root of something. And I think like that rigor, that culture is constant. It's like it's values driven, it's about accountability, and it's about intentionality. But then you have the concept of structure, which is kind of like the scaffolding for how we implement that rigor, how we actually
Mhm.
like do the work that we do, the frameworks, the tools, all of that kind of stuff. And like that's intentionally flexible. So I think like our challenge at Seer right now is like protecting that culture, protecting that rigor while kind of constantly reinventing that structure in today's world.
How do you personally like approach leadership? Like is it I mean, is does it kind of just follow that structure versus rigor? Are there any deeper like personal experiences that you bring to the table that you communicate to your team like, "Hey, I think, the best leaders are the best followers I've seen." Like
Yeah.
they adapt, they learn very well. I'm curious like what sort of leadership principles do you have personally that are outside of those two that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I would say transparency and clarity are two that are very, very important to me.
Mhm.
Mm, I never want people to wonder why we're doing something or why we're not doing something. Sometimes more importantly, why we're not
Mm.
moving forward
Sure.
on something. Empathy is very important to me personally as well. I think like remembering that we're all human, we're all trying. Sometimes the way that people try doesn't make sense to me personally, but it makes sense to them in some way. So like trying to like always like, what is that? Like what's going on? And then also like, I guess I would call it like operationalizing experimentation. And I think like I really see my role in leading the SEO team, particularly now, as designing the ecosystem for people to like be successful and to do their best work. I think like we're all adults. I said that like we're all trying to solve the same problems in a different way, and like that's a good thing. Like I want to foster that curiosity, and I really see it as my job to like bring the right people to the table to work toward that common goal, help them understand their part in that solution. Ultimately, like we're all trying to be a part of something bigger than just ourselves and the work that we do.
Yeah. I like that you said the way that somebody goes about solving a problem, you might not understand, but bringing the empathy to the table, it keeps the team together. I heard, I can't remember the book. I think it was called The Art of Spending Money, which is really good, by the way. It's about the psychology of, how you spend money. He says, everything makes sense with enough information. I love that. I love that quote. And just to bring that to the table, like if you understand where that person is coming from and how they're approaching a problem, it makes a lot more sense of why they would do it that way. Now, everything we do internally, operations, is to get results for the client. What kind of challenges are you seeing with keeping up with AI, LLM visibility, developing a brand? You're dealing with bigger enterprise clients, but I'm curious what kind of challenges you're having in the SEO space with things shifting.
Yeah. In terms of challenges, I mean, in the enterprise world, honestly, half the challenge is like, please agree to let us use closed environments of AI. Like step one, like get me with your security team. Let me explain why this. And that's gone away a little bit over the last year. That was a big battle in like 2023.
Mm.
But in terms of like actually doing the work that we do and optimizing for AI, I think, ultimately it comes down to educating people on what SEO means in 2025 and almost
Sure.
almost 2026, crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I think like if we operate as SEO as just being Google, and
Mhm.
we know eyes wide open, like Google traffic is declining. Conversions from
Mm.
Google are declining. Like there, it is harder to get visibility on page one because Google has put like e-commerce, for example, like all of those product packs, all of those filters, like it's its own shopping experience. Like we're gonna have a bad time if we're setting our
Yeah.
eyes and our expectations on just like growing traffic and those traditional KPIs. Like, so I think part of the biggest challenge that we've had is helping people understand that this shift in the industry, this growing discipline, I guess you could call it, of like AI search optimization, GEO, AEO, whatever the heck you want to call it. Like
Hmm.
it's a natural expansion of what we've been doing for a long time. And I think as SEOs, like it's our job to stay curious, understand how these
Mm.
learn, how they work, how we can put them to work for us. And like, I think that's kind of the approach that we've taken in addressing some of those challenges and roadblocks that we've gotten from clients who say, well, I have an SEO goal. It's like, yeah, and your SEO
Yeah.
goal has to factor in ChatGPT and Perplexity and
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. Yeah. You've seen the Google traffic declining. Is that because LLM traffic is increasing? Or you and I were talking off camera about following the breadcrumbs.
yeah.
Like, with these trends, what are you seeing in terms of the way people are searching for solutions?
Yeah. So our best data on this shows us that AI search is complementary to traditional search. It's not like a one-to-one replacement. So in some cases, yes, we're seeing Google traffic decline, AI driven traffic go up, but they're not like replacing each other. It's maybe like 1-2% of somebody's or
Mm.
total website traffic. So it's not a one-to-one replacement, but we are seeing actually that like conversion rates that come from AI driven traffic tend to be much higher than traditional search.
Hmm.
So that tells us that the types of searches that are probably happening on these platforms are more of the like comparative, qualitative, like hyper specific, like I'm going to this thing before I even really know what I need to search for. I just have this problem that I need to solve, and it might give me breadcrumbs to go then type into Google. And so we're seeing a shift more into like mid funnel, bottom funnel happening on Google, especially. But we're also seeing one of the things that we're tracking right now for our clients is benchmarking and tracking over time their brand search volume. So the
Mm.
hypothesis being that if someone is doing a search in an AI platform and your brand comes up as a recommended brand as part of a response, might people then go to Google and look specifically for your brand, watching paid clicks and investments in brand campaigns like fluctuate over time. Hypothesis in theory being that that's kind of a marker that we can use to measure people's interaction with AI search.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you're talking about benchmarking, I'm sure you've built internal tools that kind of track that journey. Seer is a Looker Studio partner. There's other partnerships that you have with different like tech tools and tech companies. How do you communicate that to a brand in terms of like budget allocation?
Hmm. In terms of how to try to influence that.
Yeah, I guess if we're saying, "Hey, let's show you the data. But we have this hypothesis that we have is that people are searching more here, and then they're going to actually bottom of the funnel, go to the Google search. Now we need to invest. Where do we invest? Is it more top of funnel discovery so we can show up in LLMs versus Google ad placement because of bottom of the funnel transactions?"
Got it. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
It depends on where the brand is at in terms of their like life cycle in, I would say maturity. Maybe that's a better word for it. Their
Okay.
maturity in terms of their content strategy. Most brands want to start with bottom funnel. They want the solutions optimizations. They want to drive more revenue as quickly as they can. And that's
Sure.
fine. And you can work on that and that's part of a strategy. But I think in order to win in this day and age, you have to be willing to go up funnel and really help your brand stand out in terms of that upper funnel content, right? Like we talked, I don't remember if this is while we were recording or off camera, but that concept of like AI slop content and like
Yeah.
anybody, like I can write an article in 2 seconds, like publish it, done. But like that's probably not going to be visible in AI search because
Hmm.
it's the same stuff that everyone else has said about that topic already. So when I'm
Sure.
thinking of planning budget and planning resources for a full funnel content strategy, funnel, I think is a farce. We can get into that.
Yep. Yep.
um, or a full-fledged content strategy, I guess we'll
Let's
say.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to be recommending ways to help our clients stand out and actually have a voice in that conversation so these LLMs know, "Oh, this is an authority. Like I learned something on this page that I didn't learn anywhere else while I was crawling around. Like maybe they deserve to be, front and center in this."
Mm. Yeah, unique content. At Ahrefs, I forget who the speaker was, but they were saying like the T-shaped marketer is more important now than ever, and it has to reflect in your content as well, because that depth is where AI is finding, distinguished authority in order to show visibility. How do you find that depth of content? I mean, there are tools where you can look at long tail keyword research, But in terms of like, AEO, if we're looking at prompts and prompt queries, where are you guys finding that? And maybe it's a simple answer, maybe it's not.
Yeah, it's simpler than you might think, actually. We have built and tested a lot of our own tools for LLM tracking. And the ones that we have found the most value in are the ones that show you the citations and then also the queries that fan out from all of the different searches. There is I think it's Keywords Everywhere is a free extension that you can add, and it will actually show you like the searches that run as part of ChatGPT's search. I believe it's specific to ChatGPT. I could be wrong. Anyway, I know I've used it there. But when I'm looking for like the concept of a long tail search in an AI environment, really what I'm looking for is, okay, this prompt, which you can extract, keywords like I'm an SEO in Philadelphia and I'm looking for a tool, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, SEO, regional tool, like you can extract all that and infer all of that. But then it's looking at what the model takes from that and then where it goes to search to then pull in the information. So I'm thinking of things like, oh, that's interesting. It knew as an SEO that I probably want AI recommendations or something like that. Or I'll use a different example. Like, I live in Philadelphia and I need a lawnmower for my little backyard that I have. I don't want to break the budget, but I need it to stay reliable. If you do that search, and I have done that search, or some version of that, it will pull out, okay, Philadelphia means a small backyard, maybe even a patio. Do you actually need a lawnmower? And it'll go look for like weed whackers. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
Like what? It'll look for
Yeah.
battery operated, knowing that I'm in the city and gas stations probably are not easy to come by. Like it knows to go look for that. But then translating that to a content strategy standpoint, it's like, okay, well, this persona, here are all the other things that you might not immediately think of for this persona, but like, yeah, that all makes perfect sense to me. I don't want to deal with a lawnmower in my basement. Like, I actually want a little weed whacker that I can stand up, and I want it to be battery operated. Like, I didn't even know that I wanted that, but
Yeah.
it understands like the different searches to run. And then you can kind of look at that and then build your strategy around all those other query fanouts.
Yeah, that's pretty heady, pretty like meta, concept. And it has to do with really understanding your audience and different segmentations of the audience. It's not just like we sell, lawn tools to, middle-aged people who have a house. It's much deeper than that. So a quick question on reporting metrics. Like for SEO professionals who maybe they have enterprise clients, maybe it's mid-market, maybe it's small business. With AI, everybody's talking about it. How do you translate metrics back to the client and build a story to help them make decisions on where we should go next?
Yeah. So I think we talked a little bit about traffic and how that I think is a dying KPI. At least I would call that like a secondary KPI at this point. Obviously, we still
Secondary,
need to
sure.
track it. But ironically, I think in a lot of ways, visibility is going to have a comeback for some things. So we're testing a couple of different KPI structures with our teams. One of them being more of like a CPM style visibility score, like a rolled up visibility score across all of the different organic channels that you can have. So AI search, insert feature, so like PAAs and all of that, AI overviews, Google Blue links, all of that kind of rolled up into one to say like broadly, like this is how you're doing. And we're also testing that with a cross-channel approach. So if we consider our goal is to be visible in these searches, like, well, how does paid come into play there? And how can we leverage that as a way to offset or how can we leverage organic as a way to offset the paid investment that we're making, kind of like tracking that closely. So I think visibility is one element of it. Another thing that we've always tried to do this, but especially now, is looking at engagement metrics on the sites, like time spent on site, an engaged session, did they convert, and understanding the conversion rates of AI search versus traditional organic search and kind of stacking those up against each other.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, like a heat map of a site and which areas are clicked based on where the traffic came from, right?
Yeah.
If Google traffic comes in, are they going to the search bar and looking for different things versus, LLM, are they going to maybe like reviews or something? I don't know. I mean, do you track that user journey, or how attributable is that?
Yes and no. We do our best. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the reality of attribution over the next few years. It's like we've had such a golden age of performance marketing that we've lived through
Mm,
the last decade.
yeah.
Like we've gotten used to being able to track and target every click, every visit, every conversion. And like, that's just not going to be possible anymore. So
Yeah.
we do the best we can with the first party data that we have available. We've been investing in clickstream data sets for our clients to try to like track as best we can, kind of infer like, okay, if somebody starts their search journey on ChatGPT, sometimes you can get like a little bit of the prompt because it comes into the URL. And then they go directly to this site or this page on your site, and then they bounce immediately to another page on another client or another competitor's sites, like trying to map out the user journey that way and understand like what's actually happening. Like what does the
Yeah.
back and forth look like offsite? So trying to cobble it together as best we can. But I think we're gonna have to just get really comfortable with being uncomfortable from a tracking perspective.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, yeah. We always talk about AI as a black box internally, but like, yeah, for us, it's kind of, it's the black box expands to see the user journey. We really don't know a lot of that. But part of that, not knowing is, like you'd mentioned before, making hypotheses and then doing things to test our assumptions. What I like that Seer does, and maybe you can help explain this process, but you have a lot of case studies, a lot of data reports on what you've learned that's gone well, and what you've learned that maybe your hypothesis was tested wrong in a way that's not as desirable. But either way, you're reporting those and you're sharing those with the wider community. Like, how, I guess, what's your role in that? Are you setting hypotheses and then testing them, knowing that it's going to be a case study? Or just tell me a little bit more about the case studies, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Sometimes I would say more often it's that we'll have an idea and we just can't help but try to figure out if we can prove it or disprove it.
Yeah, sure.
It's so our case studies and our tests specifically, like client case studies, that's a different thing. But like
Sure.
the testing case studies typically come from seeing something weird or unexpected
Mm,
in a data set. So really like we're probably for the comment that I just made about having trouble tracking everything in this day and age, like we are obsessed with collecting as much data as we can.
sure,
I think
sure.
that's going to continue to be really important. You can't influence what you can't measure, right? But Scrunch AI is our like AI tracking tool of choice that shows us, you run a prompt, it shows you all of the citations that are pulling in, all the different brands that are mentioned, does some analysis on that for you. And so when we're working within a tool like that, and we see something that surprises us, or a response, a snippet, a citation, whatever it is, we always want to know like, why is that pulling in? Why is that showing up? Can we like if we poke that, will it change? Like what happens?
Mm,
I think that's really there's a really strong culture of curiosity at Seer, which I very, very much appreciate.
yeah.
Plays very well with my personal philosophy on life.
Yeah.
But why? How? Like
Yeah.
thinking about everything. And so like my favorite example of the most recent one that we saw was some AI system, I don't remember if it was ChatGPT or Claude, kept like pulling in these like client statistics for Seer. We were like, where is that coming from? Why is that happening? Or no,
Mm,
it was pulling in the Philadelphia headquarters statistic. And it was like, Seer is located in Philadelphia. I'm like, why is that the most important thing that you are
mm,
harping on? Like, where is that coming from? So we figured out that that was coming from the footer on our website. And that then became like, okay, logically, think of like, I'm an AI bot and I'm scanning around. I'm just like a Google bot would. Like, you look at the header, the H1s, the terms that are in those, and okay, cool, got it. I get the gist. On to the next thing. Well, okay, if we change the data that we're highlighting in our footer, like that update ChatGPT, like what's the time frame on that? We made the change 36 hours later, that answer was different and was
oh
pulling in the
my.
same place on the site. So it's like, okay, that's a clue. That's interesting. And that's something that we can then share with the industry, but also take back to our clients and say like, okay, like that matters. We have concrete proof that that matters.
Yeah.
Like let's make sure that we're messaging what we want to message in these important like real estate areas on our site.
Yeah, dang. Yeah, we've heard so many adjustments. I mean, a lot of it goes back to the strong SEO fundamentals, like make sure you have your title tags, your H1s, H2s, FAQs are big, and just understanding that everything is formatted correctly on page. But that is really interesting that you're bringing the footer into that. And like you said, it makes sense. And we're very grateful that you're sharing that with the rest of the industry because it's that kind of stuff that like can move the needle. And not to say that we can avoid creating a lot more top of funnel content, but like a little thing like that that drives big results, which is LLM visibility. Man, that's such a cool thing to see. What other sort of, I guess, as we kind of wrap up our time here, are there any other things that you're noticing SEO wise that are shifting the needle in like that much?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not rocket science, right? Like, and I think that's kind of when I think of SEO as a practice, like it's complex, but it's not complicated. Like it's words on a
Mhm.
page, it's the way that you structure those words on the page, it's making sure that bots have a clear path to access your website and understand your content, writing clearly, writing naturally, like all of that. But I think a couple things that have stood out to me. We talk a lot about AI search and geo AEO as like just being SEO. Oh, it's just SEO. It's the evolution of SEO. And like it is, but it isn't. They learn differently.
Mm.
The algorithms respond differently. And so I think of them as almost like drunk teenagers. Like they're really confident in what they show you. When you ask them a question, they're so confident, but they're
Yeah.
so wrong so often. And so you have to like be really, really intentional about like, okay, like I'm looking at log files and you're getting stuck over here. That's adorable. Like, let me show you a clearer path to get you out of that crawl trap. Like, and so it's
Mm.
even more clarity in your technical structure than I think has mattered even before. Clear writing, like, even down to the point of like not using pronouns as often as you might in a sentence and being really specific about who you're talking about and what they do
Mm.
and like natural, but a little bit more direct with something like that. Schema is really, really important. And content freshness has most frequently been the thing that comes up as like a difference maker. So finding ways and systems to be able to keep your content updated like every couple of months, which is daunting for a lot of brands, but getting on a
Yeah.
schedule to actually make meaningful updates to that can really make a big impact on rising to the top of those responses.
Yeah. I mean, I saw something on the Seer website about content pruning, like had double digit percentage points increase in visibility, which is, yeah, it's really cool. It's something that's so simple, but like, now with Google only showing the top 10 instead of the top 100, it's like, man, what are you going to do? Like, what's the most important? What's the most direct? Amazing. One last question. What is the one thing that you would want modern SEO professionals to take away or really embody, I guess, as we move into 2026?
Stay curious. Like this is a whole reset in our industry and there's so much opportunity to test, to learn on your own. Share it. Like let this be something that brings us back to the early, like my early career of SEO where like we are all figuring this out together in a new way. Like I'm thinking back to like Panda, Penguin, like, oh shoot, links don't work like that anymore. We got to find a new way. Oh shoot, like content doesn't work like that anymore. Let this be an opportunity for us to rally around that and like learn some cool stuff, test some stuff, and like, I don't know, have an impact on the industry and on each other.
Thank you for being here, Cori Shirk. We can find you on LinkedIn, and we'll link to that in the show as well as Seer Interactive. Is there anything else that you would want us to, any other place online that you want us to engage with?
I'll keep it there for now.
All
Used to
right.
have Twitter, but haven't been on that in a while.
Okay. Sounds good. Fair enough. Thank you so much for being here, Corey. We'll see you next
Thank you
time.
so much. Appreciate it.